would help. That would help to get the audio rolling. Put myself onto the stage. Yep, I see. No voice. I see the bets for 15 minutes. Okay. All right, there we go. There we go. Hi there, everyone. Yep, I can hear myself as well. Huzzah, it's working out. Well, good to see everyone here. We got Roblox, we got Hannah, we've got Arts, and I see TV account. Yes, I did. Then also, our fun friend FL7BY8IN50, which is your handle that we can see on our end here at YouTube. I know you've got a far better name than that, but that's just what we can see here on our end. Alrighty. Happy belated Independence Day to those who celebrate it. Yeah, happy Independence Day to those who celebrate it, and also for the whole world, since I mean the world did win its independence from the alien scourge back in the 1990s. Totally real, totally happened. This is not a fictional story. All right. So there's a lot to talk about tonight. Oh yeah, we also got Iconic here with America. Great to have you here, Iconic. And yeah, like I was going to say, there is a whole lot to talk about. But let's first address. I saw the little comment right here that looks like Hannah just started watching the Owl House today. So I personally, I'll say this: I enjoyed the Owl House. The Owl House, though, is definitely a show that was hampered by a lot of things that Disney did to it. I think that there was a far better show in the original concept that Disney wanted to have dumbed down, made more kiddie, when it should have been a little bit more mature and darker as it was originally pitched. That is the route that the show should have gone from the very beginning. And also you can tell that Dana Terrace was absolutely mortified of the idea of the show getting canceled early on. So there's a lot of things in the first season that kind of got rushed that probably shouldn't have been. And that also led to a slight degradation in the quality. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoy the overall story. I think that the build up to really fighting against the Emperor could have been done a little bit better. But again, I don't really fault Dana Terrace and company for what all happened there. Because a lot of that is Disney's meddling. The last three movies that we got for season 3 were really, really good, though I can fault them for some things where I'm like, maybe the pacing could have been done a little bit better, but I wasn't there in the writing room to talk over a lot of these things, so. And says, "Is straight feels like a more PG-13 for me." It definitely is one of the more mature as far as like in terms of how in your face without the jokes some of the content is for the Owl House. But I actually would argue that Gravity Falls went further than the Owl House in terms of pushing the boundaries of propriety, only that it didn't quite feel like it half the time because of just how jokey and over the top Gravity Falls was. But like if you stop to think about some of the stuff, like even the Summerween episode, whew, wow, that was something. Like if you stop to think about what's happening in Summerween, you're like, wow, that's really, really dark. And then especially season 2 the sock opera is bonkers. Disney would never ever allow for anything like that to happen again. We probably won't see from a major corporation anything like sock opera ever again. In indie animation, most definitely, because indie animation isn't hampered by the dictates of remember the children, clutch your pearls, and wail in despair at all of the horrible evil that's not part of 1950s America. All right. So for tonight, we're going to do a little bit of talking about Independence Day. It was not actually originally on the docket. That was just mostly a joke. But the moment I saw people saying, "Ooh, I want to talk about Independence Day," I was like, "Okay, then we'll talk about Independence Day. It's a fun movie." So we'll talk about Independence Day, and then then from there we will discuss alternate universes. I've got a slideshow for talking about alternate universes, and then we will talk about tone. How does one capture tone within a story? And there's definitely the idea of atmosphere. There's atmosphere, and then there's tone. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I will admit I didn't have the time to set up a full slideshow for talking about tone as an element of writing, and that in part happens because I was working on the release for the for our review and analysis of the most recent Acolyte episode. I was working on one of my own stories, and then also the power was going out in the city today, thanks to a storm that swept through. So lots of stuff going on. So it is what it is. We'll roll with it. I do also actually briefly, I think even before we dive into Independence Day, I do want to talk about something that was really, really exciting. So let me actually change the footage so that way it is appropriate to what we're talking about. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this, but Glitch Today just released a special merchandising video where they were talking about how they have partnered together with Lackadaisy. Glitch and Lackadaisy are working together. Glitch is not going to produce Lackadaisy, but Glitch is working together with Lackadaisy so that way Lackadaisy can have a full funding for their season and to already get a head start on season 2. This is amazing. I actually got a little bit emotional when I saw the announcement, because this is the big step forward that indie animation needs. Rather than individual groups working together, doing their own thing without interacting with each other or shaking hands or anything like that, these groups are beginning to actually work together to provide support for each other, and not just simply lip service. In the past, indie animators have always given lip service to others, being like, "Hey, you should check out so-and-so's work. It's really good." In this case, Glitch is saying, "Hey, you know what? We have the infrastructure. We are going to start creating your merchandise. And whatever sales you make for your merchandise through our website, you get the funds. You get the money. This way, Tracy over at Lackadaisy can rely on a company that is already pro indie animation, already has the infrastructure in place, and that way all of these really sweet goodies, because the goodies that are being developed for Lackadaisy are like top tier. It's so good. Oh, I love it. 1920s cat art deco. It is top tier stuff. That is going to start getting shifted on over to Glitch to produce, so that way the Lackadaisy team can focus primarily on creating the show, speeding up production, and as I said, getting the funds already to work on season 2 of Lackadaisy, even before we get episode 2 of Lackadaisy. That is fantastic. That's already great foresight. That's great planning. This is going to change if they can be successful. So there's a little bit of an if right there. If they are successful with this could change the landscape for indie animators, where they basically create guilds and alliances to support each other in doing their own thing, that there's bona fide financial support. They borrow each other's infrastructure and they support each other that way. That means that all of these individual groups can actually stand up to larger corporations that have way more resources and money than any one indie animation studio or indie creator has at their disposal. So Roblox asks, as who owns Glitch? Kevin and Luke. Yes, Kevin and Luke are the owners of Glitch Productions, and they are the ones who are definitely championing this. There's some big stuff happening behind the scenes. They just met with Mr. Beast. Now, I'm not that big into Mr. Beast, I'll be totally honest, but I can appreciate how much of a presence Mr. Beast has and what kinds of resources he has and what kind of pull he has. If Mr. Beast is going and visiting Luke and Kevin specifically about murder drones and the Amazing Digital Circus, something big could be happening. On top of that, they just also today gave a visual shout out to Olin Rogers, and I subscribe to Olin Rogers. I'm following what he's doing with Godspeed. I love Olin Rogers, and he just announced that he is doing something big behind the scenes. So I don't know if Olin Rogers is also working together with Glitch, if something is happening there. I don't know, but I would love to see if that's the case. In that case, if all of these YouTubers are actually coming together to try to support each other in indie animation and indie storytelling, if Mr. Beast is giving them any sort of support, and if they're working with an already established infrastructure like what Glitch has, we can see some huge things happening in the near future. This is amazing news. All right, then. Hey, Vesper Martian Officia showed up. Great to have you here. And also Electro Burst arrived. Great to see you guys here. So yeah, Roblox says they've seen the announcements. Arts, if you haven't yet seen Lackadaisy, you should absolutely go check it out. I don't know the series you speak of, but it sounds good regardless. No, absolutely. Watch Lackadaisy, the pilot. It is so much fun. And it's so great to see traditional animation with that caliber of quality once again, because we used to rely on Disney to do that, but since Disney is no longer doing good 2D animation at all, watching Lackadaisy was like going back in time 15 years. It was fantastic. Roblox, the Mr. Beast show. Yeah, Mr. Beast is getting involved. I don't know how he's getting involved. I just know that he showed up. He showed up at Glitch, and sure, Mr. Beast can do whatever he wants. He's got the money, he's got the pull, he can do it. But Mr. Beast is a businessman. If that guy goes anywhere, if he's talking with anyone, he's not just doing it because he's like, "Hey, I like what you're doing." It's because Mr. Beast is like, "How can I make money off of this?" And that's what's going to be happening. Yes, Gangster Cats arts, Gangster Cats. It is so good, especially if anyone likes the bootlegging gangsters of the 1920s, the 1930s, those kinds of stories. Lackadaisy has all of that. And if you read the comic series, which is available for free online, it is a fantastic read. It's pretty dark. Oh boy, the show does not let on just how dark the story gets. So bear that in mind, but it's so good. I love Lackadaisy. So yeah, big things are happening. Big things are happening in the realms of indie animation. And one other thing that I learned from the announcement today, which already kind of refuted, but in a good way, refuted some of the information from the video that I just recently did about how the Amazing Digital Circus is still cooking Disney's goose, and that we now even have numbers to indicate that the Amazing Digital Circus and Glitch in general are competing on par with the best productions that Hollywood has to offer in terms of relatability and popularity. The Amazing Digital Circus Episode 2 is at the same level as Inside Out 2, which is $1 billion box office hit. Now, the episode hasn't made $1 billion, but its relevancy in terms of its viewership and connectivity is on the same level as Inside Out 2. That is insane. And also the numbers of the Amazing Digital Circus pilot eclipse what Bridgerton is right now boasting, and Bridgerton is right now boasting to be the most popular show in the world. The Amazing Digital Circus could refute that. And that is insane to think about. So that's really crazy right there. Now that I had believed that most of the money was coming from the viewership, but apparently, according to Luke and Kevin, 80% of their budget comes from merchandising. That is insane to me, because their show, The Amazing Digital Circus, based off of viewership alone, has already made hundreds of thousands of dollars just off of viewership. And an animated cartoon episode, according to the Hollywood standard, normally costs a minimum of $300,000 to produce. That's on the cheap end. Most Hollywood productions, if you're going to do an animated cartoon for one episode, goes anywhere between $1 million to $2 million usually. So what this means is that Glitch Productions, with Murder Drones and with the Amazing Digital Circus, they're not just simply doing it on a cheap budget, apparently. They're actually working on their shows with a comparable budget to a high-quality Hollywood show. And learning that, it actually makes me appreciate even more what they're doing, because they're not just because at least if they're telling the truth about that, that means that they are really delivering. They're delivering better than almost anything that Hollywood is doing, and on a Hollywood budget that they've earned through merchandise. That is crazy. Roblox Down says, to be fair, the Amazing Digital Circus on scale with Inside Out would make the Amazing Digital Circus more profitable. And Roblox, you are 100% correct. And also in part because, as I mentioned in that video, Disney is already wasting hundreds of millions of dollars on reshoots for Captain America 4, Brave New World, their upcoming live-action remake for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which they are completely redoing. And there was one other project that they were currently working on that was requiring even more money. So all of the profits that are coming from the Inside Out 2, which is incredible. Inside Out 2 has more than made a couple $100 million. The problem is that those hundreds of millions are being absolutely gobbled up, eaten up by everything else that Disney's doing and isn't working on out. For Glitch Production, if they are keeping true with a reasonable budget for each episode of their show, they are easily meeting what they got to do, and their shows just keep on getting better and better, and the viewership alone, it speaks volumes of what they've got going for them. It's fantastic. Vesper Martian says right here, they just posted that stat today. 80% of Glitch's budget is merch, which again is just blows my mind, because doing the math for what they should be earning for their show, even on a conservative level, they should have already gotten $300,000 alone from episode 2 of the Amazing Digital Circus. That's bonkers good money. And you can make an entire animated feature with that kind of money. That's really, really good. So I said anything that they make through merch is gravy on top. Apparently, according to the stat that they posted today, that means that the money that they're making from just viewership alone, that's the gravy on top. That's crazy. ISO's here. Yay! Great to have you here, man. Art says, imagine Mr. Beast funding quality animation. I can believe it. I would see that happen. I just funded 100 awesome cartoons next Mr. Beast video. I could see it happening. I could honestly see it happening. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. That's absolutely speculation on my part. But just connecting the dots as I see them with with the news that just came today from Olin Rogers about how Godspeed is going forward. Godspeed then getting a shout out by Glitch today. That's pretty big. Then with Glitch helping to fund Lackadaisy and already build up towards Lackadaisy season 2, that's big. Like these little dots here and there bespeak something amazing coming down the pipe. So this is an absolutely exciting time for indie animation, for indie creators. And as I said before, I'll say it again. I really do believe that the 2020s are going to be the decade that really change the scene in terms of storytelling and entertainment, and could open the way for more people like us, novice authors, novice creators, to come on in and actually have a viable chance to do something, to share our stories. That is not just a pipe dream that one in a million gets to enjoy, but that it can be realized by more and more people. And I love that. I love that so much. Art says, what Disney makes with Inside Out 2, Deadpool, and Wolverine will not make up what they lose in revenues. Yeah, pretty much. I agree. I'm looking forward to the next Deadpool movie, and that's supposed to also make bonkers money. But when you add everything up, what they're right now spending, they are going to walk away with such minuscule profits in comparison to what these indie creators are, and that's mind-numbing. Art says stuff like Lackadaisy needs to be made, absolutely. And again, I'm just so happy that they're already thinking towards making a second season. Roblox says, I couldn't see Mr. Beast funding anything anytime soon, considering it wouldn't be profitable because of the money he makes on his own videos are from sponsorships. And Roblox is correct right there. Mr. Beast is actually pretty wealthy in his own right, but a lot of the money that he gets and that he makes and that he's able then to use for a lot of his videos does come through the sponsorships. It isn't just that he's rolling around in Elon Musk amounts of dough. That money does come from other people. However, if Mr. Beast uses his influence to push people towards sponsoring indie animation, that could have serious and very positive, at least for the creators, repercussions, good consequences. So that kind of speculation on out of the way. I would love to actually see some of the entertainment pundits here on YouTube who actually have way more resources and connections than I do have a look at this stuff, but they won't because these are cartoons. Cartoons are for kids. No one cares about this stuff. I want to take some of those people by the ear and just say, look at this. Look at this. One cartoon is slaughtering Hollywood single-handedly. If you're ignoring this, you're being willfully ignorant at this point if you are a Hollywood commentator. I had a drink of water. TV Count says, I think this should be the standard that indie animators should lift each other up and support each other. So here's to hoping this is how indie animation is made. I agree. If indie animators really are able to help each other out, especially when if one manages to create the infrastructure like Glitch has to create good merch, and they then work out good deals with other projects that actually stand a good chance of succeeding, then I think that the sky's the limit. Art says maybe they can find out more about Deltarune for us. That would be amazing. But first we have to get a mole into the life of Toby Fox. Someone needs to be a mole. I'll be honest, when Toby Fox put out an advertisement for help, this was like 2 years ago. I was like, if I actually knew how to do programming, I would definitely apply just for the chances to be a part of the creative process there. Cartoons are for kids. Murder drones. Death. Yeah. Murder drones, especially the later episodes. Not for young kids. That's for teenagers and adults. All right. So let's with that all being said, that was a fun announcement that I wanted to follow up on for today. Let us, before we start talking about alternate universes, let's start talking Independence Day. Woohoo! So, for those of you who are not in the United States of America, the U.S. just celebrated its Independence Day. All right, the day that we won our freedom from England. Either it's the absolute greatest war of all time, or it is the greatest inconvenience of all time, depending on which side of the pond you're on. And there's this fantastic alien invasion movie from the 1990s, which is Independence Day, where aliens come to Earth and they strategically place themselves with their huge flying saucers all over the place in order to, in one fell swoop, wipe out human resistance, so that way they can then prepare for a full ground invasion, which will then strip the planet bare. And in this movie, you have multiple moving plot lines. One of the most famous of which is Will Smith, who is the pilot who first fights against the aliens. He's one of the few people, if not the only one, who actually survives that first battle with the aliens, and therefore is very important, very integral in taking the battle later on to the aliens. You're following the president, who is a kind of replica of Robert F. Kennedy. Even with him cheating on his wife and stuff like that. This is very Robert F. Kennedy right here. Or not Robert F. Kennedy, I should say John F. Kennedy. I got that wrong. Robert, we're going to put you on over into your box over there. JFK. You've got the president who's supposed to basically be in the 90s version of JFK, who rallies not only America, but rallies the world against the aliens. You've got Jeff Goldblum, who is just basically reprising his role from Jurassic Park, but now geared towards aliens instead of dinosaurs. And then you have the insane crop duster who believes that he was kidnapped by aliens and experimented on. So you have all of these different storylines, which are all converging towards the big battle at the end, where humanity will take the fight to the aliens, crash their entire system by knocking out their inter-vessel web of communications technology and sharing their shields, which will then make it possible for the F-16s, the greatest jet at that time, to wipe out the invasion. Huzzah! This movie has a lot going on. It goes from like funny to action-packed to horror to heartfelt to super patriotic to just completely bonkers to balls to the walls insane to heartfelt to funny again. The figuring out the tone of this movie is something else. But it's so worth the watch if you just want over-the-top action. Will Smith being Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, as Art says right here, returns as Jeff Goldblum. You've got all of it. You even have the crazy doctor who, if anyone like me growing up in the 90s, you watch Star Trek Next Generation, you get so used to Data, and then you see that actor as this insane scientist. You're like, that's not Data. Say, what? And I says, then the second movie, which is straight up sci-fi. Yeah, and that second movie is nowhere near as good as the first one. Absolutely not. Especially when they tried to basically have their own alien queen moment from Alien 2. Yeah, no, that just did not work out. All right, so the reason for independence, because you hate tea. Actually, the Americans loved tea, which is one of the reasons why it was like such a big deal that they threw the tea into the bay, because Americans love their tea so much that if they're willing to destroy something that they love so much, that was supposed to really like hammer it home to the British just how angry the American colonists were about being taxed about their tea. Then fun historical fact about America. George Washington had to put down a rebellion after America became independent because Alexander Hamilton taxed Americans on their consumption of alcohol. And if there's one thing that Americans loved more than their tea at the time, they loved their alcohol. Americans at the time of the American Revolution consumed at least up to 3 times more alcohol per year than they do currently. And that's like, wow. This now explains why people died in their 30s, because they were already having liver failure by the time they were 25. Anyway, moving on. There's some bad flavors of tea, mind you, which is why I stick with my favorite, mint tea with sugar. Brisk tea is better. Isa says, and while the humans are like, are these friends? The aliens are already exactly where they want to be. With their giant laser beams. Robot, let's see here. Tia's life is the greatest thing in the universe. Roblox, if you can get hacked by some guys on a 1900s laptop, you deserve to lose. Yes, that scene is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, but we love it all the same, especially because it leads again to that great must go faster. And I love it when you get the from the hacking skull. Arts is right. Yeah, Brent Spiner or Spinner Spiner. Brent Spiner is fantastic in the role. ISO me sips tea in approval. Taxation without representation. In fact, since I have the movie actually on Q ish, let's see here. I am risking copyright strike. We will risk the copyright strike for the let's see here. The fat lady sings. Is the fat lady singing yet? Oh, I thought that these would kill me. Opens lighter. Okay, so bring it on back. It's been a pleasure. Steve, you too. You know, I would actually love to see Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith like in another movie acting together. I actually think that would be really cool. There's only one thing left to do. Come on, I just want to get to the skull scene. No, Jeff Goldblum, you silly. You have plot armor. Unless we're watching The Fly, yes, Jeff Goldblum has plot armor. It's his glorious 90s abs. There we go. All right. Hey, all right. Look at us.
Look at us. Take a look at the Earthlings. Goodbye. I'll take care. All right. Number love for you. Number love for you.
Life finds a way. Yeah, life finds a way when you have a hacker in the 1990s that can hack an alien spaceship without there being any form of interface, other than the fact that they have that one spaceship from Brent Spiner's character that they fly on up there that just magically allows them to connect somehow. Heyo. Hey there, yeah, we see you later. Bye. Here, have a nuke on us.
You have any clue what's about to happen to him? Oh, no chance in hell. Good night.
Yeah, see right there. That's my absolute favorite part of the whole movie. Even rivaling Welcome to Earth when Will Smith punches an alien in the face, because just this is something that every hacker wishes that they could do, and just hacking doesn't work this way. There goes the nuke. And then, of course, we then get the must go faster. Let's see if I can find. So if I can find the Welcome to Earth scene. Oh, and so I find more Jeff Goldblum. It's just the way that it goes. Jeff Goldblum really helps to make this movie. Let me actually quickly take a moment to say right here that a movie like Independence Day proves that you can get away with an absolutely ridiculous premise, with over the top characters, with scenes that really honestly, like when you stop to pick them apart, they don't make a whole lot of sense. You can get away with those kinds of stories. What makes it work is that you as the creator, you need to kind of like take this seriously. Like you have to own, yes, I know I'm doing something ridiculous, but it's going to be awesome. Just you wait. Just you wait for when we get to the end. You make the characters, even though they're over the top, you make them lovable. Jeff Goldblum, of course, is Jeff Goldblum. You're in love with Jeff Goldblum. You're in love with Will Smith. But like every single character is just great. The crazy dad who thinks that he's been abducted by aliens just has a ton of heart to him, because yes, he's a crazy guy, but you can tell that he loves his family loves him, and that he's willing to do whatever it takes to help to save them. You have the president who loses everything. He loses his wife, he's losing his country, he's losing his mind, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to take the fight to the aliens because this is what we got to do. And even if we all go down in a blaze of glory, it's better than just going belly up. I refuse to give in. And you just have all of these fantastic characters along the way. And they're written in such a way that even though they're over the top, you care about who they are. You care about their relationships. The dialogue is actually really good. The humor lands when it's supposed to. And so even though this is an absolutely ridiculous story, you forgive it because it still makes sense. You forgive it because it's fun. And let's also just be honest with ourselves here. The actors definitely help sell this movie. I think if we were just reading the script, we'd get a lot of laughs, but it might not hit as hard as, again, just watching Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith do their thing. Roblox is down. I bet they download 10 terabytes of random deleted search history on the aliens' computer. I don't want to know what these aliens have had on their deleted search history. Ugh. I don't need to know what aliens do in their free time. Arts, it can be nonsensical, but if you make it awesome, then it can still work. Absolutely. And that was and for one of my own books, for the Monarch Mercenaries, that was kind of the idea behind it. I'm like, I know this is ridiculous. I know this is over the top. No normal publisher would ever touch this book. But I really, really want to tell the story. And if I can get the characters right and get the action right and get some of the humor and some of the character introspection and whatnot right, then yes, you're going to enjoy it. You can absolutely sit there and you can pick apart some of the scenes in the story and be like, well, that seems really dumb. It seems a bit contrived, but it should still be fun to read. And at the end of the day, if you are enjoying it while reading it, then that's, to me, what counts. Because I enjoyed writing it, and so I hope the people enjoy reading it when they read it. Now, let's see if I can find that Welcome to Earth. Okay. Welcome. It's okay.
I've got the right David! In an orderly fashion.
Come home, Dylan, honey. So.
Nothing to me. Oh.
Oh, here's the dad.
Oh. Well,
so yeah, there we got the G's to calm down. Like the Acolyte, if they made characters endearing, well written, people would like it. Absolutely. I think that there's, again, we've talked about this in the past, that there's actually something, there's a lot of good somethings within the Acolyte that could be spun off into a great story if they're just willing to stop thinking that they've written the best thing with the first draft. Please read through it, edit it, get a second opinion. Apparently they did get a second opinion. Dave Filoni came in and read through it, and then he rewrote part of the script and then said it was perfect and handed it to them, and they just accepted it. No thanks. And actually, I'll say this even. Just based off of that little story alone, if you as a writer are working with a traditional publisher and editor, when they hand you their notes and they say, okay, then do this with your story, from what I have heard from other authors, they say that a good author doesn't just simply regurgitate what their editor tells them to do, but that they take all of those notes and they then say, okay, what can I do taking these notes and make it my own story still? It's not going to now be my editor's story. It's still going to be mine, but I'm going to take their advice and use their advice to make my story the best that it can be. And that's what you want to do. It seems like the people on the Acolyte, when they handed it off to Dave Filoni made it his story, then handed it back to Leslie Headland. And then Leslie Headland's like, sweet, now let's just do stuff. Yay! Star Wars. I'm getting paid millions of dollars and I don't care. So, Art says, I can see Soul as a character could get behind, people could get behind, like Qui-Gon. Yeah, there's definitely a Qui-Gon element to Master Soul that I think could be teased out. And the actor's really, really good. Aliens in America. What could be better? Roblox is down for freedom and liberty. Democratic music starts playing. Yes, the musical track, especially towards the end, is just great. Electro Burst says you're planning on working with Blitz Production. I hope that you make it. No one's paying attention to the stripper because all of the everyone wants to see the big fight with the aliens. I didn't realize that it was this late on into the movie.
29 pounds. Total loss.
It's one of those moments. This is one of those moments where when you look back at it, you're like the movie just runs by so fast. This movie does not feel over 2 hours long. 2 hours long. Like all of this preamble stuff, I like in my memory, even though I should know better, it all feels like 15 minutes.
That's stupid over there. You know me. That's what I'm talking about. Jimmy, what are you doing? You can't make it that speed. Jimmy, he's closing on you.
No.
Put your man back on.
No, Jimmy, no.
Baby, come on. Come on.
Replicating Star Wars and all right, here we go. We're almost here to the welcome to Earth. Oh.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, Will Smith absolutely acting his little heart out. The welcome to Earth is after the destruction of everything, I believe. Yeah, yep. Electro Burst says, because I know what indie animation is missing. Oh, really? Now, do tell us, Electro, because indie animation is right now doing really good. So if you've got extra secret sauce, then it's time to start sharing.
Okay.
Look at you.
Ship all banged up. Who's the man?
Who's the man? Yeah, who's the man? Because you're the human.
Welcome to Earth.
All right. There we have it. I just had to find that. Being depressed is not fun. Hey, I hope that you're able to overcome it because, yes, depression is not fun whatsoever. Finding good things, good people to spend time with, that helps. And also just being open about such a thing. Dang. Vesper says, Electro, do you know how that would work? Because I haven't even thought past art school, but working at Glitch sounds bloody cool. It absolutely would be. One of the ways, I'll just say this, one of the ways in which you get to that point of being able to work with a company like Glitch or with really any other company is you need to develop a portfolio of work. You need to be able to show what you can do, and then you need to make that portfolio public. You need to reach out to people and share what you can do, start making connections, because even indie companies are highly selective. They want the best of the best people that they can get their hands on, because the best people will help them make the best work. They want to make the absolute best of their stories. They don't want to give it just 50% and say, well, we got it done. It's all good. So if you want to get into indie animation and work with bigger players and with companies, you gotta develop that portfolio, and you got to start sharing it on out. It's yeah, oh boy, it's a process. A really good friend of mine, they've been they've gone to animation school. They have a very impressive portfolio of work that they've done in school, along with their own independent work, and it's still pretty hard. Uh, their goal, if they can manage it, is to work with the Critical Role crew in helping to develop their campaigns into shows, and that would be absolutely amazing if they could manage that. But it's hard. Yay! I got a kitty joining me, and she's causing all kinds of mischief. Arts, yeah, I think that we've all dealt with depression at one point in our lives in some form, unfortunately. I do not know, however, that it helps to talk it through. I think that it does help. It helps to at least be honest when you're dealing with such a thing. Now, then, I am not a therapist, so I can just give my personal experience. I've learned that in over time that if you're able to at least let people know how you're feeling, then people are going to be better about how they approach you, and at least try to sympathize with you, empathize with you, and help you out where they can. And if so, then yeah, then that's already a step in the right direction. Depression is different for every single person, so there's no one catch all, solve all. Lecturer says, "I'll give you one hit. I love Saturday morning cartoons in the early 2000s and mid 2010 maybe. The cartoons of the early 2000s are absolutely phenomenal, and if we could go back to that time and that particular style and storytelling, that would be incredible. I would absolutely love it." Art says, "It's a shame kids can't grow up on the old concept of Saturday morning cartoons as we knew them back in the day. Gave us a reason as kids to get up early." Absolutely. Absolutely. I miss Saturday morning cartoons. There was once a time where I was kicking around the idea of doing Saturday morning cartoons here through Camille's Harem, trying to set that up and like actually like being like, okay, guys, for this Saturday at this time, we're going to be watching these cartoons. And for like 3 hours, we're at 3 hours just to have random cartoon episodes that we'd watch. Maybe even get episodes out of order just to like make it more authentic. It sounds really, really fun. It's a ton of work to get that set up. So I've never gotten around to actually making that a thing, but it's been a dream of mine that I've kind of kicked around behind the scenes of bringing back Saturday morning cartoons here on Camille's Harem. Taking a drink. Axel says, "I was watching Brandon Sanderson stream Elden Ring for a bit today, and probably my favorite part, I'm guessing, was when someone asked if he would accept an offer from Soft to create a story for them. He said he already had one." Oh, ooh, that's exciting. That is exciting. I love Brandon Sanderson. Some people who've been around with the channel for a while should know that. And I would love to see what he could do with a Souls type game. I think that he could bring some really cool stuff to the Souls universe. Lecturer says, Arts, you shed me tears with that statement. Says you need to do a cartoon review, which I do cartoon reviews, but actually, like, again, setting up an actual like a Saturday morning cartoon montage, like making it, for instance, private for members to come and watch. That would be really neat to do. But again, there's just a whole lot of work involved in that. If we ever got to the point where we were able to afford hiring help, then I'd definitely make that a thing. Hold on here. I gotta let this rambunctious kitten out of the office. Whoop. Yes, I'm talking to you, Daisy. Alrighty. when the kitten starts doing barrel rolls all around the room, that's when you know that she wants out. All right. So Independence Day rant right there. Done. Kitty, let it in. No, I needed to let the kitty out because the kitty wanted out. She was she was about ready to go berserk, and like I said, she was already barrel rolling along the floor. Oh man, I love my cat. Art says, I put 2 errant kitties to bed earlier. They like to need everything. Ah, yes, needing. Or what's really funny sometimes is when a cat starts suckling what they need. It's just so funny to watch that. Arts, you got 2 Siamese. Siamese have so much personality to them. Lecture says, okay, one less hit on my projects I wanted to make. My older brother says they save the best shows for last on Saturday morning cartoons. I guess it would depend actually on the channel. I remember while growing up with cartoons that some of the best cartoons were really early. With like, so the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock cartoons were normally the heavy hitters. Sometimes they did save the best for last for the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock slots. Also while growing up, because I never grew up with cable. It was all local channels for me. I remember that some of the best cartoons were actually premiered on Sunday. So there was a short block of Sunday morning cartoons. The Redwall series premiered on PBS on Sunday mornings. Oh, that show was something else. If you haven't read the Redwall series, I'll say this, at least the first book, Redwall. Oh, that's so good. That is such a good read. And about 5-6 chapters in, you begin wondering, why is this in the kids section? This book should not be in the kids section. This is violence. This is so violent, and it's so dang good at the same time. It reminds me of how Brandon Mole once said that you can get away with almost any amount of violence in a kid's story, so long as you don't have anything sexual. Not the most you can have are characters blushing. And then you can say and they got married and lived happily ever after. You can't you can have a clip of the marriage, but you can't have anything else. Maybe a kiss. And so long as you keep the lovey-doveyness to the absolute barest minimum, books and television shows, at least back in the day, would let you get away with nearly anything you wanted in terms of action and violence. So, fun fact in the world of writing, Puritans these days have tried to clamp down on that, but that's still in many times the standard. T Account says kitties are the cutest to watch, especially when they do something funny. Oh, absolutely. Art says, yes, my 2 Siamese are like yin and yang. One absolutely loves human contact, and the other hides from human contact. Cats took over the live stream. Briefly. Art's Nickelodeon was always good for cartoons. Rugrats, Doug, Rocko's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy. I'm talking Doug before the Disney version. Oh, yeah. Actually, I know the Disney version of Doug way more than the Nickelodeon. And again, that's just because I did not have cable growing up, so I missed out on that. I got the watered down Disney version. The 2 episodes of Disney's Doug that really stick in my mind are the pimple episode and then the anorexia episode. The anorexia episode was really disturbing. Woof. TV account to Electroburst. I remember new episodes premiering on Friday. Thanks, it's Friday, a whole new meaning for me back then. Yeah, some of the new stuff was what you get on Friday. I remember when Pokemon was first airing stateside, and I would be following along, and they would have some of the newest episodes dropping during the week. I would run home from school, which involved running up a pretty large hill, and not necessarily like, oh, it's super tall, but rather it had a pretty good gradient to it, and it was just long. So you're just it was a test of endurance to sprint up that hill, but I would do it for Pokemon. For Pokemon. Tom and Jerry, the original, was the best. I love the original Looney Tunes. Oh my gosh, that is just so over the top ridiculous. Electric Bird says, I want to show Glitch Production my dream project, fighting game series that I've been planning. Excellent. I hope that you're able to have that chance to pitch it to them and that you get a good response to that, Electro. So good luck. Art says, Nick did also some legit live action TV back then. Clarissa Explains It All being one of them. One of the live actions, again, because I didn't have cable, but one of the live action shows that I enjoyed, it was a game show. But the game show for Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? That was a great series to watch. Roblox, Lars is about to go on the I walked 10 miles uphill both way to school rant. No, I walked uphill only to go back home. Walking downhill back in the day when Tucson used to get frozen over in the winter, that hill was dangerous because if you slid down the ice, you're going down ice and rock all the way down to the school. All right. So let's see here. Enough of this. Let's talk alternate universes. Since this was one of the things that was requested that we talk about, let's bring this on up, and then from there, after we've talked alternate universes, we'll see what we can discuss, what we can learn from each other in terms of tone for a story. So I'll bring up our new slideshow right here. And real quick, address some of the things. Let's see here. ISO says, also to Electro, good luck with that. Genuinely, I can't make games, but I've got plenty of ideas, mainly lore-wise. The best one to do, alternate universe, is Fate Grand Order. Oh, I should have definitely included the Fate series in terms of alternate universes. We're going to get to that stuff. You can definitely borrow from Fate, or we can even work on Fate. You'll see what I mean when we get to that part. Ooh, the good part. JK. Electra says, because Glitch Production did say about their behind the scenes of MetaRunner, they say they wanted to try making video games. Oh yeah, that'd be great. And they're already dipping their toes in that by doing Glitch In, which, I mean, Glitch In is just a hangout space online. But again, in the video that I did recently for how well they've been doing with the Amazing Digital Circus, it is incredible to think that Disney at one point was pouring hundreds of millions of dollars, at least purportedly. Who knows actually how much they really invested? So I won't say that they dumped $100 million into this project, but Disney was ramping up to basically create their own metaverse. Disney was thinking that they could turn the premise and the setting of Ready Player One into an actual reality. They were going to partner off with Apple to create a virtual reality hangout spot for all Disney fans to interact with each other, be in the meta space, and hang out with fans, with creators, and enjoy shows and whatnot in the metaverse. That entire idea has 100% collapsed. It's not going to happen, in part because it's ridiculously expensive to do something like that. And also, you need to have the fans who are willing to put in the time to do such a thing. Glitch In was surprising to me, didn't have as many people invested in it as I thought in terms of fan interaction, but it exists. And Glitch actually managed to put something like that together, whereas Disney said that they would lead the way in doing it, and Disney utterly failed. And it'll be interesting to see how Glitch In expands as Glitch continues to work with more and more creatives. Art says, is this leading towards writing choose your own adventure books? Maybe so. I love writing choose your own stories. I always do one each Halloween, and I've actually already been working on this year's choose your own horror story, which I'll give a little brief spoiler insight for this one. This is going to be like the Goonies. I'm drawing inspiration from the Goonies for this story. So think Goonies meets Trick or Treating. And that'll give you kind of an idea for what we're going to be doing for this year's Choose Your Own Adventure / Choose Your Own Horror story in October. And I'm hoping to kind of build on what we did last year with doing it with having interaction here on YouTube. And we're going to see what we might be able to do in terms of adding in a little bit more interaction for people. That's stuff that's right now currently in development. I can't promise you the moon, but I'm going to tell you that that's what we're right now working on. Art says, because each of these endings could be considered their own alternate universe. Yeah. Or they were trying to make their own version of the world from Dot Hack. The best alternate universe, the fail one. Oof. No fail. All right. So moving on now, finally, with alternate universes. Now that we're caught up there in the chat. Okay, so what is an alternate universe? Let's actually define what we're dealing with here, because this is actually a very contentious debate, and in part because people draw on the scientific idea of an alternate universe as opposed to what is done in fiction. So, within the theory of a multiverse, the concept of different universes means that there exists entire infinite planes of existence that operate according to vastly different rules than our own. So, like, for instance, from the Multiverse of Madness, there should be a universe where all Doctor Stranges and everyone else are made out of sentient cookies. Or from Netflix's Stranger Things, you have the Upside Down, which is a rotten reflection of our Earth. And it operates according to its own rules, where magic happens, depending on your psychic ability. You can do all different kinds of things. There's all various kinds of monsters. It's not safe for humans to be there. The longer that a human stays in the Upside Down, they will be altered and changed into another creature. So that is normally what people would expect when it comes to an alternate universe. However, within fiction, the concept of an alternate universe is a place where the characters that we know exist but are different. Either these characters have different personalities, they've had different experiences, so their backgrounds are different. Maybe the history of their world or their universe is different from the one that we saw in the original story, or they live in a different environment than their counterparts in the original universe. And it could be a combination of all of these things, or of a handful of these things. So effectively, within fiction, the idea of an alternate universe is not the scientific one where everything is different and people are breathing fire rather than oxygen. No, we're talking about, we're going to take the characters that you know and love from one story and transplant them effectively into another story so we can have fun with them and see what they would do or who they would be in an alternate setting. Now then, this leads, oh my gosh, how did that happen? That image should be a little bit more on over to the right, because you should be able to read Multiverse of Maddening Frustration. Oh, that's a little bit frustrating. I'm going to figure out why that happened the way that it did. In any case, there are loads of arguments against multiverses or alternate universes in terms of fiction, because of some of the following. And this is not a comprehensive list of every reason why people dislike alternate universes in fiction, but here's some of the big ones that you will hear. It means that nothing matters. When you can find a replica of the characters and that you love and enjoy, you can circumvent death or major consequences by popping on over to another universe and pulling them on in. This is one of the issues in a multiverse setup, like what we see in the DCEU and the MCU. Also, alternate characters are not the ones you originally love. So, for instance, let's actually hop on over to Deltarune, um, because I actually have some Deltarune stuff queued up if we wish to use it. Uh, if you enjoy playing Deltarune, you've got Chris, who is the person that you control as the player. We're learning who Chris is. You've got Susie, who is the bully turned best friend. You've got Ralsei, who is the sweet cinnamon roll Dark Prince Goat Boy, who may or may not be the big villain at the end of the day. They have very specific personalities that we know, that we love, relationships that we enjoy about them. If you were to take those characters and let's say put them into a universe where Susie is now the human and Chris is the goat monster. As cool as that is to do, the argument from some people would be that's though not Chris and Susie. You've radically altered who they are because, for instance, one of the big aspects of who Chris is that they are a human in a town full of monsters, and that they would rather be a monster than a human, as far as we're able to tell so far. Susie enjoys being a monster, and as we get at the end of chapter 2, she's annoyed by movies where they have the large rampaging humans against monsters. She thinks that's dumb. That Ralsei, man, yeah. And let's say if we have Ralsei as a human, that kind of takes away from the point of Ralsei. That Ralsei is a Darkner who exists to help Chris and Susie, at least as far as we know. So an alternate universe already drastically changes the characters that you know and love. And so when we come there to the end, isn't this just an abused concept to justify fan fiction? Why don't you just call it fan fiction and say, and that's what it is? Don't slap on the label alternate universe. The best goat. Yes, he's the bestest of goats. And then you also have the argument that an AU doesn't cultivate real originality because you're just simply using someone else's work and you're taking what maybe actually be a really cool idea on your part, but you're subjugating it to another person's work. You're bastardizing their work and you're not letting yours breathe and become its own thing. Curses, I say. Hey, this isn't original work. Screw our alternate universes. They're no good. Those are some of the arguments against them. And to be all honest, like if you step back and think about it objectively, yeah, you can see that being the case. Especially in, for instance, something like the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I actually enjoyed watching the Multiverse of Madness as opposed to some other people, but I will admit that there's a lot of really cool things that they could have done with it that they didn't. And that's another big problem when it comes to alternate universes. At the moment that you open up this Pandora's box of possibilities, if you're not going to explore the possibilities of an alternate universe, then really what are you doing? Did you see the Sans multiverse great this fan fiction? Now, I haven't seen a Sans multiverse fan fiction. So I can't comment on it. Art says Chris wishes that they were a goat monster, but the fact that they're human, wanting to fit in, is all part of their character. Exactly. It's quite important. Don't comic book writers make their own take on established characters all the time? That they do. And so I'm actually going to get to that. So pros to alternate universes. One of the big pros to an alternate universe, and this is kind of where all of the other pros to doing alternate universe comes to play, is these are the what if scenarios. You get to explore a what if through another take on these characters. So you can ask big questions for them. And I have, for instance, right there, the image of Storm and Wolverine together, because that's actually one of my favorite AUs within X-Men, at least the animated X-Men series canon, where there is a timeline where things go absolutely awful for mutants, and Wolverine and Storm actually get together and lead the resistance. And I actually really like that timeline because because finally Wolverine isn't just pining after Jean Grey. And when you see him in a healthy relationship with someone like Storm, like you see that he's actually like a really decent guy. And it's nice to see that Storm can also have that relationship with someone else, and they're a great dynamic duo. And Storm was canonically originally one of the leaders of the X-Men, as well as like one of the top tier characters who worked with the Avengers. So bringing it, so honoring that old tradition from the comics in this alternate universe where the two of them get together and lead the resistance after the X-Men fail, that's a really cool story right there. And that's one of those ones where like people are like, yeah, you know what? Even if I don't like alternate universes, it's a good story because it's a good way to answer the what if of what happened. What if this happened to these characters and they do something unique with them? And that brings me actually to the third point. You can challenge characters with unique situations and environments. For example, is there a scenario where we can justify Batman breaking his one rule, being that he won't kill someone? And that also leads to the question of, if Batman kills, does he cease to be Batman? Because that is so integral to who Batman is. And there have been a lot of really great comic book writers who have delved into that and have done some really great Batman storylines. And that's something that you can have a lot of fun with in an alternate universe setting of, what if we did this instead to a character, like to Batman? What if we challenged Batman on such an integral level? What if we could show that Batman truly is this unconquerable hero? And you kind of actually get that I can't say kind of, you do get that in the live action Dark Knight movie, where the Joker sets up what he believes is going to be two perfect scenarios to screw over Batman. One is the murder of Rachel, how he's going to kill Rachel by getting Batman to go to the wrong place. He hopes to break Batman that way, and then follows that up with who is going to die in that ship, or the two ships. One ship is full of innocent civilians, the other ship is full of hardened criminals who deserve, in many cases, to be executed. What is going to happen? And Batman then proves through the Joker letting him get to play out his experiment that people are going to do the right thing if given the opportunity. That people aren't just selfish and chaotic and ugly on the inside, but that there's good to them. And that's why Batman does what he does. So long as there's good to people, Batman will exist. And because that exists, Batman cannot break his one rule, and so he will never go out of his way to kill a person. He even saves Joker as Joker's plummeting to his death. And that is separate from most other renditions of Batman and Joker that we have seen. That was Christopher Nolan's take on the character. It is an alternate Batman universe, and it works so beautifully well. Do it again. Batman reaches over and snaps his neck. So, again, the what ifs. If you really explore deeply and well a good what if story, that through an alternate universe, you can have a ton of fun. So let's see what some of you guys have been saying, because suddenly now there's been absolute deluge of comments right here. Roblox says that last part is the same thing as saying all fiction is trash recreation of reality. I agree with you, Roblox, and it's one of the reasons. And especially whenever anyone says all ideas have been done before, why bother? I'm like, don't you dare say that, because yes, sure, you can say that all tropes have been pulled off before, and all story archetypes have been told before, but everyone has a chance to say their own unique story, and there's so many amazing stories still left to be told. We're never going to get to the end of it. But the majority of what ifs are boring, nothing spicy. In many cases, maybe. And again, the what if is actually a little bit subjective, because for some people, they really like the idea of exploring what if Chris was a goat boy and Susie was a human. For me, I think more about like, ooh, what kinds of other crazy dark worlds can we create and explore? And that comes down to the individual writer and to the individual fan, what they wish to explore with an alternate universe. Art says there was a deleted scene in DOFP where Wolvie and Storm were saying goodbye. I wish they did more with them as a couple in the movie universe. I agree. Oh, yeah, Days of Future Past. You're right. You're right. They did have a moment that kind of harkened to that. I agree. I would love to have seen that relationship explored more because it's so good in the cartoon. And again, just Wolverine, please get over Jean Grey. It's old. It's been done. No more. Isa says there was a comic out there somewhere where Joker nearly killed Lois Lane to make Superman kill him and tarnish his name, but Batman stopped him. In the Batmobile on the way to prison, Joker says he'd do it again. Batman reaches over and snaps his neck. Yeah. So you've got those kinds of stories. I really like. There's a lot of what ifs when it comes to Superman are all about, can we destroy the Paragon? Can we take down the best of the best? And I'll to be honest, when it comes to Superman, doing it that way is not as engaging or as interesting as I think people think. And this is a conversation I've had with one of my really good friends, where she says that Superman is a boring character because he's a paragon. He's just so good. And to a certain extent, I could agree with that. But one of the things I love about Superman is that when you put Superman with his back to the wall with certain situations where you're like, wow, super strength can't save the day here. Your powers can't save the day. How does Superman beat, for instance, a moral quandary or a great riddle? Because you just think that Superman's all about the brawn. What is great, some of the best Superman stories are the ones where Superman uses morality or philosophy or intelligence to win the day rather than his powers, showing that a goody two-shoes Boy Scout from the Midwest can be more than just amazing strength. And I like that take on Superman more than, can we make him fall and become a villain? But that's just me. The best part of an alternate universe is any ships is canon. All Fate fans. All the ships are now canon. And let's be honest, most alternate universes are written to explore shipping potential. Vesper writes, this writing is all about experimenting with themes and exploring philosophy through your stories. Yes, and that's pretty much it. The alternate universes allow you to have the chance to explore, again, those what ifs and explore with these characters or with a setting what you like, where that philosophy or where that idea or where that event or character development could take you. And that's really fun. That's what you want to see in a good alternate universe. Not just the idea being posed, but then it getting played out. TV account. So it's like if there was a story in where Connor wasn't a clone, but Superman's and Lois's son. Yeah. And Superman visits Batman in prison after he turns himself in and gives him a hug. Aw, good soups, good soups. No killer rule is stupid. This is a fact. Fight me. You would have to fight Adam West, and you would have his critic be gone spray that he would pull out of his bat utility belt. The communist Superman. Roblox is down. That was an amazing take on Superman. What if you made Superman a murderous Marxist? That was something. That gave me chills. Not gonna lie, because I was like, oh, that's so frightening. Especially when you know the history of like what the Soviet Union really like tried to pull with certain programs, their ambitions for world domination, even going back to the 1920s, and how they tried to play that out multiple times, leading all the way up through the 1950s. Like after the 1950s, it calmed down once Stalin was dead and gone. But wow, just the sheer insanity and terror of the old school Soviet Union, especially when they had their eye on conquering the world. And Superman canonically comes out of that time. And so you can have actually in an alternate universe still like a golden era or silver era. I think it's actually golden era. No, it's bronze and then golden era Supermans easily could fit within the communist framework. Make him a villain. Ooh, that'd just be absolutely terrifying. America did the same thing. America is an interesting example of what happened during the Cold War, because the thing is that America didn't want to go all imperialist. Like, America had already had its taste of imperialism in the late 1800s, early 1900s, which led to the rebellions in the Philippines, which absolutely terrified the American public. And after that, the United States actually went through the process of saying to their territories, you guys can kind of do your own thing. If you want to be free, then you can be free. We're largely okay with that because we don't want to go through another Filipino revolution, because that's absolutely horrifying. The United States has always kind of taken that idea, then going forward, where it then became more of spheres of influence, which is ideological colonization. Woof, that's its own crazy thing. I am not going to make any excuses for the insanity that came out of that time period from either side. The United States did just as bad things as the Soviet Union in some cases, but it's not a one for one comparison per se. And I am not going to turn this live stream into dissecting the 1950s and all of that insanity. Woo! I get me demonetized real fast. Roblox says Joseph Stalin would never have let Soups get that close to him. That is true. Joseph Stalin would have had all kinds of jewelry and even a bulletproof vest made out of kryptonite, so that way he could survive Superman. That's absolutely what it would be. The man killed his own doctors, then he died because there was no available doctors. Oh, Stalin, absolutely insane. Scooty Booty. Oh, but you're so good at explaining the 50s. Scooty, Scott, we are going to avoid going down that rabbit hole, because then I'm going to get onto a tangent about my thesis, and we don't need any of that. Oh boy, this became a touchy convo right quick. Yeah. This is why we make it a rule to avoid modern politics on this channel. We don't need any of that ish here. So getting back to it, so the last pro to alternate universes, you get to put your own story, you get to put your own spin on the story you like. Yes, Scott, you now remember. Oh, that thesis story. Yeesh. So, alternate universes. Let's actually build our own here. This is so. What I want us to do with this particular exercise is I want us to actually think about what you could actually do with an alternate universe beyond just simply the wouldn't it be cool if X happened, and then just kind of leave it at that, which is where a lot of creators just kind of end up leaving things. They're like, wouldn't it be cool if Batman killed someone? Yeah, let's have that happen. So they do that, and then there's really no exploration of Batman beyond that point. Or people were what if people shipped cats and hot dogs? Yeah. What if we could actually what if cats and dogs got along? Yay, cats and dogs got along. Woohoo. We're just going to leave it at that. What if the Roman Empire never fell? Ooh, now there's an interesting one. Explore what the modern world would look like, most likely all under the imperial boot of Rome. Chances are that the only places that would remain free from Roman control would be Asia and Africa. Everything else would be under Rome's boot, just because Asia and Africa are so hard to actually really take over and control, because they're so large and so vast with so many different people, and they've got traditions of resistance. Cut that out of context. Celtic Druidism became a big religion instead of Christianity. Ooh, there's an interesting one. Yeah. I mean, I do love a good hot dog man. He's a hot dog man. kryptonite chest plate that does nothing against a laser blast of the face from from unimaginable heights. What if Sin never made a deal with Absolute Solver? Okay, let's actually go with that one. What if Islam and empires didn't fail to conquer in China? Interesting. That's an interesting one. Yeah, that would radically alter world history right there. Let me tell you. So let's actually go. Let's go with a fictional story and something where we can actually and let's go with something that we can actually tease on out that isn't as vast as what if Christopher Columbus never made it to America? What if Islam had actually managed to conquer the Chinese dynasty and it drastically altered the face of Asia? What if Genghis Khan had conquered the world? Those are some really big questions which are really fun to think about, but are a little bit too big for this particular topic right here. While they make really great think exercises, and you should definitely explore them, I think that if we keep it a little bit more focused in on a story that we can that most of us can speak to and provide some insights on, that's going to make this exercise work out a little bit better right here. So I'm actually going to go with TV accounts one right here. What if Sin never made a deal with Absolute Solver? So to set the stage right here, at the beginning of episode 5 of Murder Drone's Home, we see that Sin communicates with Absolute Solver there on the screen of her face. And you know what? Let me just actually pull that up real quick here. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doo. Got to go back into my Murder Drones files. And episode 5. So here's going to be what if.
Software down below.
We'll never escape the Murder Drones while Lars is running this. Yes, you've fallen for my trap, Cod. Alright, so taking it back here to the beginning. So here we got the mountain of corpses. At the very bottom, we've got Sin. So Sin was an improperly processed and displaced worker drone, which then allows for that just blink and you miss it moments, where across the screen, the question comes, are you lonely? And would you like a friend? And the answer is yes, which then leads to Absolute Solver entering into Sin and taking Sin over, and this then begins all of the horror that we're going to be dealing with. So if we ask ourselves the question, in an alternate universe, an alternate timeline where Sin doesn't accept Absolute Solver into herself, what happens? The easy answer is, well, then you don't have all the crazy stuff that happens in Murder Drones. Haha, problem solved. Not quite. If we play it out a little bit here, Sin is one of those drones who is retrieved by Tessa and is dressed up and everything and is brought on into the manor. So Sin would still be in the Elliot Manor along with N, J, and V, but we'd probably get to see her as an actual person. And one of the things that we can kind of figure, because we know that Absolute Solver does allow little bits of its host's personality to peek through, that there is a cutesy, silly side to Sin, that she would probably be truly the little sister to N, that we see that dynamic teased a little bit here within this episode. Now then, because it's hinted at that the spire of corpses, or the pile of corpses, is essential to Absolute Solver connecting with any planet, or making a connection to its victims and to the people it wants to go after. Chances are that there would have been another drone who would have accepted the offer for Absolute Solver to come in and possess their body. This is where I think you could actually get a really interesting alternate storyline. So what I would probably write, and I want to hear from you guys what you think of this. So what if here we got to indulge in a what if? So what if Sin didn't accept Absolute Solver? So we get to actually have a fun dynamic between Sin and J and V. Remember that V does completely break down. That's not Absolute Solver's doing. That's V completely breaking down. And N still goes and reads to her and everything, and that's all super cute and shippy and gushy. And while this is playing out, Sin, you could turn Sin into one of the protagonists at this point, according to what Vesper says right here, and maybe notice that one of the other drones, or maybe some of the drones, are suddenly acting very differently, or maybe that some of the bonked out drones like V are beginning to move in the library when they shouldn't be moving. And so you can then set up a kind of murder mystery situation where Sin is trying to figure out what's happening to the other drones, and is trying to get N to help her out, is trying to get Jay to pay attention as Jay's obsessing over Tessa, trying to get Tessa to pay attention, and so you then get that murder mystery quality. We're trying to solve who done it, what's going on, and have that race against what we know is going to be the Elliott Manor massacre. And the Elliott Manor massacre would actually probably turn out a little bit differently because we know that Tessa really connects with N, Sin, J, and V, and that many of the other worker drones that are there are not necessarily her favorites. Like, she probably does enjoy these drones, but not as much as that core four. And so there's a very good chance that Absolute Solver would not necessarily be interested in torturing Tessa by keeping her alive, as it then murders the rest of her family and all of the family friends when they come to the gala, which could then mean that Tessa is a prime target for Absolute Solver to murder right off the bat, either at the gala or before that. And so Sin is trying to protect her human. That I could see that being a really interesting turn of events. In order to have murder drones still be murder drones, the Elliott Manor massacre must still happen. Absolute Solver still has to get loose. But you could then have an interesting development where Sin is then one of those murder drones from the very beginning. Who would she then be as a disassembly drone rather than as the host for Absolute Solver? So I want to hear from you guys, because I've pitched this. I'm the one who's telling the story so far. I want to hear from you guys. And I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to put this question here into the chat. Who would Sin be as a disassembly drone? And I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And let's see where we can take this story. Because again, it's not murder drones if Absolute Solver doesn't somehow still get unleashed and Earth is destroyed and the events still play out, where we get Uzi being the main protagonist, meeting up with N. How does it then change when Sin gets thrown into the mix from the get-go? What would she be like as a disassembly drone? Would she be one of the ones who tortures N? Maybe N would actually have a friend in Sin from the very beginning. Here's let's see what you guys think. Not the same, that's for sure. Yeah, TV count. Unfortunately, sorry to hear that your connection cut. Yeah, you kind of missed. You missed a little bit of 1950s history rant. One of these days, I will just have to have my own little channel where I do rants about history, and people can come and debate. Roblox, are you lonely? Sin shrugs. I don't know. Absolute Solver, are you serious? Sin shrugs. Absolute Solver, can you say anything else? Sin shrugs. Sheepish nod. Isa says you have to find a different host. Art says not necessarily. There could be another cause of the same events down to the timeline. All right, let me take a drink. Hannah Heaven says, I don't know. And yeah, it's okay if you don't immediately have an answer. That's what this is all about. This is all about exploring that idea of an alternate universe, taking in a what if and actually doing something now with it. Roblox is down, says of all the drones are wiped clean of their personalities because sin is the reason they have personalities in the first place. Oh, Roblox is on to something right there. Yeah, you could actually have completely murderous individuals, which, think about this then, Roblox. If we went with that particular line of thinking, what if when Uzi blasts N, melts him, and he comes back, and there's that whole rebooting instance? What if that's actually what then begins recalling N's personality and memories? That could be a really interesting way of taking it. So we got one branch where you could have that would definitely set up a very different dynamic with all these characters. Iso says disassembly drone Sin would be a kind murderer, kind, slightly condescending, but trying to comfort those she murders before their deaths. She would absolutely be kind to N. That's an interesting take on that right there. It's like, shh, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, little worker drone. Let me rip out your guts. So tasty, warm oil. Yum, yum. Sin and N, according to Vesper, Sin and N would be close friends, and J and N will torture them. Oof. Yeah, probably be. Knowing Lars's internet, it could be him. Yes, my internet causes all kinds of problems. Lover of Wolves, do you mean Sin with the solver as a disassembly drone or without solver? Hey, also, hey, Lars. Hey, loner, lover of wolves. Awesome to have you here. We're talking about an alternate universe where Sin doesn't accept the offer to become the host of Absolute Solver. As a result, she still remains one of the wonky worker drones that Tessa would bring on out, that we see that she was disposed of improperly, meaning that she can still have a personality, she can still function, but now she's just not a disassembly drone, or she's not just disassembly drone. She's not possessed by Absolute Solver. So what would the story be like from that point? So we've got two different branches then that we can go with this. According to the canon, which Roblox is very good at pointing out, their personalities would be scrubbed, making them all of them absolute killers. Which could then mean that, again, that when Uzi blasts N, you could have a very interesting turn of events where now a disassembly drone begins showing a personality. And what if then, and you could explore that where N is like, oh, I remember that. I used to be with these people. I have a crush on V. Oh, she's so hot. And like, that's already like coming through when that dynamic doesn't exist at all. And N would then kind of be one of those people who's then trying to turn all the other disassembly drones and try to get them to remember who they once were in the past. That could be a very interesting take. Or with the other branch, have it where Sin is a kind murderer and could be a good friend to N. Which, if that's the case, how does Uzi fit into that? Because Sin could easily then become kind of like the jealous little sister in that particular scenario where she's like, no, this is my N. Who are you, you little drone? You're not allowed to have him. If anyone's going to be with him, it's going to be V. Like you could have that kind of an interesting scenario. You could play it out in that direction, and that could be its own fun insanity. Roblox is down. Backtracking, what if they kept their personalities? Sin ends up killing N in the mansion, and V doesn't have her traumatic memories. Interesting. That would also really shake things up because what V remembers is absolutely integral to how she acts throughout the series. I says, well, let's see here. Vesper says next, I feel Uzi would also meet N and Sin right away, and N and Uzi wouldn't have that same chemistry. I agree with you, Vesper. I believe that that's probably the way it would go, which would immediately, I wouldn't say immediately, but it would make it very hard to justify the Newsy ship, because you would have Sin kind of being that block right there. Not as a romantic partner to N, but just as that person who would almost act more as a foil to Uzi immediately within the story. And that would immediately create like an interesting sibling triangle there at the beginning. Oh, please. No, none of that Gremlin Uzi versus Sincest. This is why people are absolutely horrified by what fan fiction authors do with alternate universes. No, Loverable says, "Oh, interesting. I think it would be a completely different show." It absolutely would be. Iconic comes out of the woodworks to also say no. Oh my gosh. Sweet home Alabama. Well, let's hear. Alabama, Australia. Alabama for Australia. Sweet home Australia. Woo! Where the skies are so blue. Fanfiction, yes. Fanfiction, always yes. The intrusive thoughts won for the briefest of moments, and I have brought chaos with me. Oh boy. So TV Count's about to give us what they've got. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, already right here with this thought experiment, you can already see how the story becomes very different. And by having Sin be a part of things, already so many of the events that you would want to have in Murder Drones already begin changing. And so as an AU writer, if you wanted to really explore the potential of an alternate universe, rather than just making it where Sin is now a character who's there to watch for when N and Uzi become friends, and then, or at least meet up and kind of become friends at the very beginning, and then N chases after Uzi because of the rail gun, which then leads to the invasion of the colony, which leads to Jay getting blasted, which leads to Absolute Solver taking over Jay's corpse and attacking people from within the colony, which then leads to the prom. Those events suddenly are immediately thrown into question. They might not happen at all because of how Sin would interact in all of those situations. She might prevent Uzi and N from immediately becoming friends, or maybe it's so overwhelming that an important character such as Thad might even just get outright destroyed by Sin in a nice way. Because of the things that have happened. You can't then just simply beat for beat redo the Murder Drones show, but just have Sin be a part of it, because otherwise then it's not interesting. It's unrealistic within the show's framework, within the even playing around with the canon, because it just doesn't fit. So it then becomes incumbent upon you as the writer to explore those new possibilities to whatever end they be. And when you do that, that's also one of those instances where people say, yeah, but do you really want to do this because we love Murder Drones so much, and you've obviously gone off the farm by keeping Sin around? All right, so TV Count says Sin refuses the deal. someone much worse would take her place, very likely. They become disassembly drones, mostly soulless machines, until they meet Uzi and her railgun. Haha. Roblox says, okay, back to my first timeline. All personalities are wiped clean, but when N returns to the corpse spire, Sin is with him, and in this AU, Sin is blasted, and when she regenerates, she regains her personality. Ooh, that's interesting. That takes us definitely down a very different pathway. Vesper says, I actually love the trio dynamic, though. Yes, you can have a whole lot of fun with this new trio dynamic. And you can also recreate different kinds of dynamics. What if, like, again, for instance, I just threw this out there. What if Sin's like, no, Big Brother N's going to end up with V if he's going to end up with anyone? Like, that would immediately change so much because one of the things that leads to Newsy being what it is that the only one who does anything about, like, anything against it in any way really is V, and V doesn't kill Uzi like she wants to because N doesn't want her to. What if you now threw in little chaos gremlin Sin, who wants what's best for Big Brother N, and is all like, V, let's kill the little purple drone. That could lead to all different kinds of crazy scenarios playing out. Lars said, Vesper and I heard Mesmers. This PTSD, Elden Ring has scarred me. I haven't yet gotten to Mesmer. I am not excited about fighting Mesmer or Radon. Spoilers. I am not excited for that. Oh, that's going to be painful. Let's jump back to where TV account says there would be a jealous sister arc between N, Uzi, and Sin, but become friends, and Sin accepts Uzi. I like that. I like that little idea right there. They got TV account sibling dynamic, says Roblox. Lover of Wolves, have you watched the Murder Drones Intermission? It's a fan episode that takes place between episodes 4 and 5. If yes, what do you think of it? Lover of Wolves, I have not yet finished it. I've only begun it. I've really liked what I've seen, and I want to do a video on it when I'm done because it looks fantastic, and I need to finish it. Scooby says, another random AU idea, murder drones take over Skynet or the Matrix robots. It's not hard, get good. Yeah, see, that's what people say. And if you're not a gamer like me and you're just in there to have fun, getting good is going to take a while. So that's just the reality of the situation. Scooby says, I love crossover fics sometimes. I love writing crossover fics. They're my favorite to write. ISO, good fight, both of them, but dang. TV account, excuse me, I have to go help out with something. Be back. ISO, oh yeah, the transition into episode 5 from intermission is just what I needed. See, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that because I do agree there needs to be a better transition from. There definitely needs to be a better transition between some of the episodes, not just between episodes 4 and 5. But also, I would say transition from episode 2 to episode 3, and also from episode 3 to episode 4. Like there's so much story that's been left on the cutting room floor. Q files, anyone? Oh, you've brought up the Q files. We're gonna have to save the Q files for another day, Scott, because that's its own crazy story. Dark Souls and Fate Grand Order, one of the best fan fictions I can imagine, and that sounds absolutely terrifying. Also, at the same time, same day. Wait, Vesper, same day I wang or same day I'm not exactly sure where you're going with that comment. So, same day I wang, I guess. I don't know. All right, so. Coming back to building an alternate universe, we're not going to go to the very end of where this could go with Sin not accepting absolute solver, but hopefully this already begins to give you an idea of what kinds of challenges you've got with an alternate universe. there's so much potential there, but there's a lot of things to kind of keep in mind. And as we saw between what you guys have posted, everyone has a different idea for what you could do with Sin, or what you could do with the entire cast in general, or the entire story. And that's one of the fun, liberating things of doing an alternate universe. It's also one of those things that makes people really upset with alternate universes, because that's not what they imagine would happen. So when you do an alternate universe, you really, if you want to make it good, you really have to think things through. Not just be like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'll do this, and then it'll be this, and it'll be this, and I'll just follow the canon content stuff because I really enjoy that. No, the moment you start writing an alternate universe, you have to commit to how that changes the characters, changes the setting, and changes the overall story. When you decide to commit to it, that's when an alternate universe gets really fun and interesting. Let's see here. Scott says it's not as bad as the Forbidden Writers Roulette. We need to do a Writers Roulette. Oh, we absolutely do. So it's true that it goes against my headcanon of how it went, which is Sin tries taking control of N and V, which results in them passing out and Uzi enters their mind, but it's still great. Vesper says, someday I want to write a fanfic about N and Uzi if they had a daughter. That'd be cool. Ben 10 alternate universe is a weird one and good. Hey, that's what fanfiction is for. TV count. I'm back. What did I miss? TV count, you really didn't miss anything. You came back actually pretty quick. So that's that. Yeah, there we have it. That's pretty much it when it comes to alternate universes. Just think it through. Think it through. Once you've changed a character, once you've changed a setting, history, personality, it begins changing the whole story. It has ripple effects. You don't want to do the lazy thing of just changing one aspect of a character and then the rest of the plot plays out exactly the way that you like it because you like the story that way. The moment that you change something, it's the butterfly effect. Everything else begins to change. Maybe not drastically change, at least not at the beginning, but things begin changing as the ripples go on out. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes ultimately its own very different story. Scott says committing to changing the whole story is the best way. Do not just rewrite the story with a little change. Amen, 100%. Roblox is down rewriting episode 2 in my AU. In this episode, Uncontrolled Sin and N join with Uzi to try and free V and J, but they can only save V and J. They can only save V, and J is left out because she can't be having screen time. Oh, poor Jay. Lover of Wolves. When writing alternate universe and time traveling, what do you think is hardest to write? Okay, then. So, Lover of Wolves, that's a fantastic question. I am going to say this. Personally, I think that a good alternate universe is harder to write than time travel. Almost every other writer will tell you that writing time travel is harder than writing an alternate universe. The reason behind that is because people take time travel to that it must be one of three things, one of three different ways to do time travel, and that's the only way you can ever do time travel. And if you ever break those rules, everything is going to suck, and no one's going to like your story, and it's just awful. And when you take on one of those three, you must abide by these rules. And if you break them, woe be unto you. So make sure you know the rules, make sure you adhere to them, and that you only write your time travel story this way. And I know I'm exaggerating it a little bit right there, but I've listened to writers talk about time travel stories, and that's basically them. I don't agree with that. I actually think that you can have a ton of fun with time travel. You can be a little bit loosey-goosey with some of the stuff. You just have to know what you're actually trying to do with that time travel. Are you creating parallels or paradoxes? Are you trying to adhere to a very strict way that time flows? Or are you just going to be like, the moment that you break the flow of time, anything can happen? Time travel has all kinds of possibilities with it. You just have to know what you want to do with it, commit yourself to it, and then just start having fun. And so I think in that way, time travel is just you kind of discover, like many times I feel like time travel is kind of discovering it as you go. Whereas with an alternate universe, you are literally trying to rewrite everything about the story. But that's my personal take. Again, most other writers will disagree with me on that. Speak like every YouTube channel about writing. Rolex ISO is a fact of reality. I'm talking about time travel. In time travel, you have to decide what points of the plot are irreversible. But other than that, you can do anything you want within the established world. Yeah, I think that Scott makes an excellent point right there with that. Okay then. Take another drink of water. Wow. Been going on here for nearly 2 hours. Woo! So let's start shifting gears and wrapping up with at least a brief conversation about tone within a story. And we can definitely make this actually a bigger, more concentrated lesson in the future, tone versus atmosphere, because there's definitely that's definitely something I think that needs to be well defined in order for you as a writer to know to utilize, okay, this is the tone versus the atmosphere. They're very similar, but atmosphere is kind of like the over general setting of the entire story, of its themes, its feel, and the tone, as I'm going to talk about, is way more based on the characters themselves. So real quick, TV account, I'm thinking of making an AU comic in where Sim was rescued from Absolute Solver, but everyone assumed N and Uzi are dead, but they just got transported to a different galaxy. Very interesting story right there. ISO, like 2 different book series by an author named Scott Barron. They are an interconnected series, but in one series, time travel is scientific, in the other, it's magic, and yet it still follows the rules. Very interesting. That's something to look into. I'm Omega. Honestly, my story does involve alternate universes, but it's centered around a major character. Also, hi, Lars. Hi, I'm Omega. Great to have you pop on in. Alrighty. So let's talk tone. And for this, I'm going to pop on over to Deltarune, because why not? Deltarune, I think, is actually going to help to help clarify a difference between atmosphere and tone. So Scott says, I think we need to talk about the difference between setting and tone here. Exactly. Okay. So for the game, here's the thing. For the game Deltarune, most people, when they think of Deltarune, are honestly thinking about the humor, the adventure, the shenanigans that Chris and Susie get up to. That is mostly what people think of when they think of Deltarune, and that's absolutely fine. That's kind of the tone that these characters bring. At its heart, Deltarune is actually a pretty serious kind of game, because as you're introduced to it, what it sets up very clearly in both the introduction as you are creating your character, and in the introduction when you are Chris and you explore the Dreamer household, you realize this is a serious, dark game. The setting and the atmosphere are something big and bad is about to happen. Something dark. Angel's heaven is coming. We don't know what that is, but something big and bad is happening within the dark world that's going to affect the light world. On top of that, when you explore Chris's setting, it's actually kind of bad and gloomy. The Dreamers are divorced, so Asgore and Toriel are split, and it's not been a good divorce. As we see, it looks like Chris is a little bit of a neglected child, which is kind of incongruent with what we know of Toriel. But when you look at the room, how it's split, that Chris is just on like this kind of barren, almost decrepit side of the room, and then look at good boy Azrael and all of his trophies and his beautiful bed and all the stuff that he has. There's a split. Things aren't right. And when you then explore throughout Hometown, it's clear that people who should be getting along aren't. There's a lot of bullying that's been happening. Alphys, as much as we love her, is a horrible teacher. Susie is bullying everyone, and in part, no one is giving Susie the time of day because of how they perceive her. So there's so much that is dark, that is not right. And the dark world itself, when you're introduced to the dark world, it's dusty, it's broken. There's these ominous eyes looking at you. You know that something happened. And when you explore the old classroom, you realize that either Father Alvin or Gerson, boom, maybe even goes back as far as him, that they had their own adventures that fell apart. They abandoned the Dark Nurse. It's all really grim. If you take out the funniness, if you take out the jokes and the bad puns and the silliness that happens while you're trying to make friends with everyone, it's actually really sad and depressing. The whole thing. The point of the game, according to Toby Fox, is to become friends with everyone. That is the happy ending. That is what you're aiming for. And if you can do that, then you will be truly rewarded by the story. And this is then where the tone starts coming on in. Because the tone is what the characters bring to it. When we look at Chris at the beginning and our own experience as the player, because we were creating our own vessel and that gets ripped away from us before we then get stuffed into Chris, it's rather depressing. Like, we might feel the very first time playing through it excited because, hey, it's Toriel, it's Alphys, I see Undyne, yay, the characters I love from Undertale. But when you look at it with a more critical eye, again, you realize, oh, this is rather depressing. And when you get to know Chris a little bit better, you realize that also things are kind of damper and dour for Chris. And it's then only through the interactions with the different characters, especially beginning with Ralsei, that the tone of the story truly changes. And I'll explain why once I catch up with what some of you guys have said right here. So atmosphere is another great term for what I was thinking. I have an example in Jujutsu Kaisen, everyone that is a hopeful story, but very obviously was depressing. I was surprised people didn't know. Jujutsu Kaisen is also actually a very good example of this. A very ominous, dark story overall, but with certain characters bringing in a very different feel. Depending on their histories and what they're doing, and even a very positive character can suddenly turn very dark depending on what happens to them. Scott says, I'll have to look into the series. Oh, that's the two series are the Dragon Mage series and the Clockwork Chimera, again by Scott Barron for future reference to you. Thank you for sharing that, ISO. That's very good, especially for anyone who wants to check out some really cool time travel stories. Hannah Heaven says, yeah, it's very sad. TV count, so tone equals the feeling of the story. ISO says, and that's why I believe that dark stories need a form of lightheartedness. Exactly. So to help build on this TV account, and again, I think I will have to do this as like an actual like concentrated lesson, kind of live stream for later on. So the atmosphere of the story is what you lay out in the very beginning, where you say, okay, then, for instance, this is going to be a dark story where all kinds of crazy things are happening. Just look at what's happened to Toriel and Asgore with their divorce. What's happened to Chris? How they seem to kind of be almost a neglected child. That none of that's good. And look at Susie being a bully. None of that's good. The player forcefully taking over Chris. This isn't any good. That's this darker atmosphere is the setting of the story. But the moment that we're introduced to Ralsei, Ralsei comes on in and is like, heroes, yay! And Susie immediately rejects it, being totally in line with the atmosphere and everything. But once you go through the main doors, and Ralsei's all like, hey, let's be friends with everyone, and encourages you to pacify people rather than fight them, the story begins to change in terms of tone. The atmosphere remains the same. Hometown by the end of chapter 2, things are getting darker. The town is cut off from the outside world. They've lost the internet. There's a storm coming. Remember that Noel's dad, Rudy, is still on his deathbed. The Dreamers are still split with bad blood between them. Bad blood between the Dreamers and the mayor of the town, Noel's mother. And something is happening with Father Alvin. It's still rather dark. But the tone changes because Ralsei encourages you to be a better person. Ralsei brings a whole lot of fun to the story. Then we get to see when Lancer as well becomes more part of the story. Lancer's just goofy. He brings this goofy tone to the story, and it begins to change things up. It doesn't change the atmosphere, nor does it change the setting, but the tone has changed because of the characters who are there. The characters with their personality that doesn't break the world, but complements the world, changes the tone from encounter to encounter. And then as Susie starts becoming your friend and decides that she's going to be a hero rather than a bully, then we get way more lightheartedness coming into the story. So much of chapter 2 is very lighthearted in comparison to chapter 1 because of who Susie has become as a character. Again, the story and the setting have not changed, but the tone has changed because of how the characters have changed, and they're becoming funnier, happier, friendlier people along the way. If you, though, decide to play the Snowgrave route, the tone begins to match the dark atmosphere because of what you've done to Birdley and what you've done to Noelle and what you've done to Chris. So the tone of a story is dependent upon the characters. The atmosphere is dependent upon the setting and the plot. So, for instance, like let's take the thing right here about Berserk. Very dark, grimdark fantasy, absolutely. And so much of the early part of the story, like when you get the Black Swordsman arc, is just like, oh, it's so emotionally draining to read the Black Swordsman arc, because other than Puck, who is a fun, witty character, so he brings a lighthearted tone to the story, everything else is just dark and demented, and you're stuck with the atmosphere. As the story expands and you get to learn more about who Guts is as a character, who Casca is as a character, as we then learn more about the Band of the Hawk, but then we're introduced to other new characters to deal with and have some fun with, they as well bring another tone to it. They bring a tone of adoration, a tone of fun, of romance, of tongue-in-cheek adventures, of all this stuff. And so Berserk, where Berserk is now as a story, even though it's still, the atmosphere is still very dark, very foreboding, and very intense, when you get certain characters on the page in Berserk now, you feel something different. The tone changes. And even when you now see Guts, at least for me, I feel hope when I see Guts on the page now, because I've seen his journey and I now know that he will be the guy who overcomes everything in the end, because he's overcome everything thus far. He cannot be broken. If you push him down, he will get up bigger and better than ever. And so the tone for Guts is that of hope. The tone for Cercio is kind of tongue-in-cheek. The tone of Farnese is adoration, almost bordering on goofiness. When you see Puck, it is levity, it is goofiness. So the characters change the tone of the story. And for instance, what I've got playing on right here, depending on what you want to do with Chris as a character in Deltarune, Chris can either be seen as a very goofy, fun individual, or if you, for instance, go this route, where you're trying to explore the story of Spampton, things get pretty dark, actually, for Chris. And the tone with Chris goes from lighthearted now to kind of a little bit dark. Not kind of, it does get dark. So the character, so ultimately, characters determine tone. World building and plot determine atmosphere. So I hope that makes good sense. Sorry, that was a very long way of me getting to a very succinct point. But I hope that makes sense. Lover Wolves, wow, I'm learning a lot about tone and atmosphere for a story. I never knew. Thanks, Lars. Yeah, you're welcome. That's what we're here for. And if you haven't played Deltarune, definitely check out Deltarune. It's such a great story. And Berserk is also a great story, but Berserk is definitely a very mature story. It's one that, even though I've got copies of it, some of those copies, thanks to Scott, I am not going to hand that on over to my nieces and nephews until they are more mature and are willing to engage in such a story, because it's super intense. Hannah says it's going to take some time to think about what you just said. LOL. Roblox, I didn't know peace was an option. Peace was never an option. But yeah, so I think that with that being said, the atmosphere is all about plot and world building. Tone is about character. We'll explore that in the future in another lesson. We might make that potentially next week's lesson and actually do a little bit more of a deep dive there. And I will say this, kind of like thinking in terms of the future. Not next. I mean, as I said, I will be doing a live stream next week, but the week after there will not be a live stream because I'm going to be on vacation. Yay! I'm going to go to Mount Rushmore with some friends. So I will not be able to do a live stream in 2 weeks. But next week we will be doing it. Lover of Wolves is such a fun stream. Got to go eat lunch now. Toodles. Thanks for showing up, Lover of Wolves, and thanks for your contributions. It's been fun. Man, just look at this. Surviving this part of the game was such a pain in the rear. It took me forever to figure out the particular pattern to survive. All right, so there we have it. We've talked about Independence Day. We've talked about what's been going on with Glitch. We talked about tone versus atmosphere. We've talked about alternate universes. We talked about Independence Day. It's been a really good live stream. Hey Scott, thanks for showing up, for being a part of this. You have a good night, friend. So yeah, we'll begin wrapping it up here. If any of you happen to have like a final question that you really want to ask real quick before we sign off, now is the time to speak your piece. Read Berserk as a kid. Yeah. That's a great way of having Child Protective Services called on you. Roblox, you could chalk it up to we talked. Yes, we talked. We had great conversations. And you guys also did a great job of exploring what would happen if Sin had not accepted Absolute Solver. I really liked what you guys were coming up with, and that's definitely not some of the stuff that I would have thought of. So it made it even better because I'm like, oh sweet, like this is really cool. I'd not thought of that. So again, this is just one of the reasons why I love the live chats, because you guys have great things that you contribute. Yeah. There we go. I can speak English. I was born a native English speaker. All right. So then, let's see here. Then with all of that, like next time, we'll definitely do a more concentrated lesson on tone versus atmosphere, and I'll try to have some more details that I hope will be useful to all of you, and see what other writers have to say on the subject. I might write out my version of Disassembly Drone Sin someday after my current fanfic project. Hey, that'd be really cool. I like to see what you do. There I go, leaving that shiny that I need to explore. Oh man, my this is why I would never do well as a gamer on YouTube or on Twitch or any other streaming platform, because I just poke around, and I'm definitely one of those meanderers. Why a lot of Alabamians create fan fiction. Sweet home Alabama. Woo! TV account. So to summarize, light moments are needed to balance the dark stories, and sad moments are needed to balance out silly stories. Kind of. It depends a lot on the story that you want to write. For instance, if you're writing a really dark story, you need to have moments of some kind of levity, some moments of goodness and happiness, because if it's all dark and bad all the time, it gets very depressing and very hard to finish. Maybe if not for you as the writer, then definitely for the audience, because we're just not built that way. People want to see good stuff. But when it comes to being silly, sometimes your silly stories need a moment to at least calm down. You don't necessarily need to be sad, but it's good to balance out the silliness with something else. Like we love great comedy movies, but even some of the best comedies have moments that are a little bit heavier and weightier, just so that way you get that fun contrast that helps to accentuate the humor, and again gives you that moment to kind of calm down just a wee bit. Hannah Heaven says, I've been writing for a while. I'm 21 pages in for my fan fiction. Can't wait for a review. Hey, Hannah, that is fantastic. Great job. Great job in reaching 21 pages. Hopefully I can draw fan art at that point too, so I can draw Disassembly Drone Sin as well. Yes. Oh, Disassembly Drone Sin's design would actually look really, really fun. I kind of want to see that now. And Hannah Heaven, whenever you're ready to share out your fan fiction with us, then please go ahead and do. Roblox, people want to see good stuff. Bars 2024. Exactly. Put that on a t-shirt, put that up on billboards all across America, all across the world. People just want to see good stuff. Did you play Fear and Hunger and Darkest Dungeon? I have not played those games, so unfortunately I can't give you I can't give you my opinion on it. I have seen that some of the YouTubers that I follow do have playthroughs for it. So I'll have to go and check that out sometime if I have the time and if I remember. Still need to finish watching Murder Drone's Intermission, and I also need to finish watching Gilded Guy, because I've been asked to do that, and I'm halfway through, and I should be able to knock that out in a day. I just got to make the time for it. Yeah. All right. So I feel my voice kind of going. We've been going on for over 2 hours. So I'm going to start wrapping it up for reals here. Guys, thank you so much for coming here, for all of your comments here in the chat. And again, for just all of the positivity and fun that you bring. Hannah says, sure thing. It's going at tomorrow though, because the process is slow. Shocking. Yes, that's the way it goes with uploading and getting everything finished. Yeah, no, Hannah, I absolutely get that. But I do look forward to reading it. And I'll give you my review and feedback. So guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful day, night, morning, wherever you're at. And I will see you in the next video and next week for the next live stream. And until then, y'all, tschüss.